Hey guys, it's Chelsa Messenger with Picks and Parlays. We're talking NFL action. Saints at Broncos. We've got a nice little special. We've got 50% off 2-for-1 weekly passes, which means you get the picks from two handicappers for the price of one, just $114.99. And you need to use the link picksandparlays.net/turkey. The Saints are -5.5. The total opened at 46, but it has now dropped to 43.5 as of taping. The Saints are 8-2 on the year, 5-5 against the number. Broncos 4-6, 6-4 against the spread. We've got Lee from ASA joining us to talk this one. Lee, we had Taysom Hill time when it came to the Saints, and he actually performed pretty well as far as operating that offense. But I think the story for the Saints has been how good they've been as an overall team, and especially their defense. And then you've got the Broncos coming off a win over the Dolphins where they were able to run the ball at will. So that was a bit of a bright spot when it came to the Broncos, and also getting a lot of pressure on Tua when it came to the Dolphins and eviscerating that offensive line. So who do we like here? What's the play?
Well, it's interesting. We'll get to the Saints and Taysom Hill here in a second. I wanted to start with last week's game, Miami-Denver. Just looking at the number, so Miami was 3.5 or a 4-point favorite at Denver last week. Now we got a Saints team that might be the second best team in the NFL behind Kansas City, laying 5.5. Earlier this season, Kansas City went to Denver and was laying 7. So I think you know from past editions that I'm not public team. I like ugly underdogs, but I will take the Saints in this matchup for something that you just touched on. Last week, the Broncos were able to run the football against the low average Miami rush defense. That won't be the case this week against New Orleans, who is number one in the NFL in rushing defense. They allow just 74 rushing yards per game. That puts the onus on Drew Lock, the quarterback for Denver, who has not been good when he's in those types of situations. He's got 11 interceptions this year. He's going to face pressure from the Saints. They had produced 8 sacks last week against Atlanta. They're fourth in the NFL at 3.2 sacks per game. They just held Atlanta to 14 first downs and 52 rushing yards. So with Denver not having much of an offense, they're going to have to lean on their defense here. But that's where we get to the Saints. The Saints played extremely well last week with Taysom Hill at quarterback. He was 18 of 23 for 233 yards, 0 interceptions. He rushed for 51 yards and 2 touchdowns. And this is interesting. It's only a small sample size. It's just one game. But last week, the Saints averaged 6.8 yards per play, which is a full yard more than they averaged all season long with Drew Brees. And they averaged 10 yards per pass attempt compared to 7.4 yards per pass attempt that they were averaging on the season. So that was kind of been a criticism of Drew Brees, is that they haven't thrown the football downfield. They were able to do it with Taysom Hill last week. Like I say, Denver wants to lean on their defense here, but they're facing an offense that's dynamic now. I don't see this one being close. I would take the Saints minus the 5.5.
Yeah, I took the Saints last week, even before I knew Taysom Hill was going to be the starter, because even if they had Jameis in there, as a team, the Saints are so good overall. We talk about their defense. So their defensive line has made quarterbacks like Tom Brady look like mere mortals. So I don't think Drew Lock is going to be the guy that steps up and, shreds them to pieces. And then Taysom Hill has stepped in and done really well. He's not turned over the football, and he's also a really dynamic rusher, which makes the game planning a little bit harder for opposing defenses. So the Broncos defense looked a little better last week, but this is a Saints offense that also has, oh, by the way, Michael Thomas, a true number one receiver, and also Alvin Kamara, who is a threat out of the backfield to run the ball. Just any way you slice it, it looks like the Saints team is the much better squad on paper, even going to Denver, which I haven't checked the weather, but are there any other factors when it comes to playing in Denver in this one?
Yeah, we touched on this last week with the higher altitude, and I don't think weather is going to be a drastic issue for either team. Again, both teams have to play in it, whatever it might be. We go back to Denver leaning on their defense, which I think is 13th in defensive efficiency, but the Saints are like 3rd or 4th. And then offensively, it's a drastic difference. The Saints are one of the top 5 offensive efficiency teams in the NFL. And I think Denver is last or second to last. So
a lot of numbers pointing in the Saints' favor. But that's going to do it for our NFL talk here on Picks and Parlays. As always, great stuff from Lee from ASA. Lee, thanks for joining us.